This is Housing Committee, Great City of Los Angeles. Thursday, December 9th, 2020. It is 4 p.m. We were scheduled for 3. We moved the committee to 4. It's been a long week, and we would like to get to the business of the city, particularly this committee. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll?
Calling the roll. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo here.
Councilmember Krikorian is absent, and Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Present.
Mr. Krikorian will be joining us in a minute.
Okay, 2 members present. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Do we have public comment?
Yes, we do have people in public comments. So could we have the clerk mention the number and the number to call?
Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-871-1866 and then press the number sign. Press the number sign again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak.
Mr. Krikorian has joined us for the meeting. Please note.
Okay. Should we accept the public comment participants, Mr. Chair?
Yes, let's move this, please.
Okay. Caller with the last 4 digits, 8300, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the last 4 digits, 8300, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the last 4 digits, 1108, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Yep, hello.
The items you want? Yes.
All items in general public comment.
Okay, so you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes. Council members, I am concerned in particular about item number 2 and how it seems that most of these services are provided by Delbra Richardson, who's also known as Delbra Richardson Price, one of Councilmember Kern Price's 2 simultaneous wives, and how Mr. Price has not recused himself from these issues in the past. As you know, you, council members, are in the middle of an ongoing federal corruption probe. And among other things, I think that when Mrs. Price or Mrs. Richardson conducts business on behalf of the city, she needs to let people who she's trying to pull out of their homes, that she be required to state her full name, Delbra Richardson Price, and explain to the constituents at every turn that her husband is a member of the LA City Council. Because she hasn't, and because Mr. Price has not recused himself from these issues in the past, you are playing with fire by allowing these agenda items to go forward while failing to disclose to the very poorest people of the city of the marital relationship between the vendor who's trying to get them out of their homes and relocate them and Mr. Price. And for some reason, neither of them disclosed this. Now that you know about this, and you've known about it for a long while, you need to make sure that those disclosures are made at every turn, because I'm going to start reporting on them, and I'm going to start reporting about what's happened in the past with this failure to disclose, especially in the middle of a corruption probe. That said, I'm going to go on to general public comment and explain that my column coming out tomorrow. By the way, Gil, you had some great quotes today for the Herb Senda. As for Ms. Martinez, there are people who are homeless or about to become homeless who have reached out to her office And I have done follow-up, and there is no response. My column tomorrow is about Nuri's vindictiveness against these very poorest people in Los Angeles. And, you know, all of the flowery talk about Herb and David Rue leaving is contrary to a lot of the experience of the poorest people in Los Angeles, whether it's dealing with housing or homelessness or the police. It's contrary to the flowery language that you had today. So I will distribute it, and if it's ignored further, I will keep reporting on these issues, because all of the flowery talk about Herb aside, the reality of the poorest Angelenos does not match what you guys were all being so effusive about today. Anyway, last meeting. Thank you very much. Have a good holiday. Bye-bye.
Caller with the last four digits 7006, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the last four digits 7006, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Yes, it's me, Daddy. All items, general public comment.
Yes, you have 1 minute.
You don't sound like my daddy, Gil. I don't listen to anybody but Daddy. Okay, number 1, grant awards, traffic safety, child passenger safety. Fuck number 1. Number 2, Los Angeles Housing and Community Department reality our authority to provide tenant. Oh, that's Mrs. Delbra Richardson Price. Then, of course, she wasn't Price, because if she got married when the marriage was valid to Lynn, that would make her a bigamist. So, on number 2, and Gil knows the answer, where's the marriage license, Gil? Showing that Mr. Price is really legally married to Delbra. You know. Are you going to tell me?
Time is up. Caller with the last four digits. The last four digits of 8300, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the last four digits 8300, could you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? That's all we have, Mr. Chair. That's all the public comment we have.
Thank you for your assistance. I want to thank the public, Mr. Wayne, Mr. Gust, wishing you a peaceful and safe holiday season. We appreciate you, and we thank you for your comments to the public comment section of this meeting. We're prepared to move to items on consent, items 1 and 2. Are those the two consent items? Items 1 and 2 are up for consent. Any objection? Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Krikorian. Thank you. Mr. McQueen seconds. We have moving to adopt the CAO's recommendations and the HCID reports. Do we need a roll call, or are we good to go?
We need a roll call, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Calling the roll to adopt the recommendations in the CAO report. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember Cedillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Krikorian?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris-Dawson?
Yes.
3 ayes. This item is adopted. These items are adopted.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is a Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department report relative to 46 program year 2020 through 2021 Community Development Block Grant Reprogramming, revisions to Cdbg and Home Investment Partnerships Program, funding allocations, and conversion of Neighborhood Stabilization Program income to Cdbg program income.
Thank you. Do we have a concise and brief report from HCID?
Hello, I'm Julie O'Leary with HSID. I'm the Conplan Division. Hopefully I can be concise on it. In general, what we're asking for is approval for reprogramming. We identified savings working with council offices and city departments, and we want to get approval to reprogram that into the projects that are identified in the attachment. We're also requesting that the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, which is a grant from HUD that is ending, and HUD is interested in closing the grant out, that income associated with that project be converted to Cdbg program income, which is permissible with HUD, and that it's already allocated to the Slauson Mall project, and that stay with that project as well. And then finally, the last piece, HUD had notified us that the allocations that they had indicated we received for this program year, or that there was an error in their formula, so there's a slight change, asking the council to accept those reductions of a little over $8,000 and $6,000 for CDBG and the Home Investment Partnership Program, respectively.
Thank you. Mr. Krikorian, I defer to you on questions.
No. Well,
Okay.
actually, yes. On the administrative, sorry,
You're the fiscal eyes here.
so close. But just on the administrative cost adjustment, can you walk me through that? How that occurred, and where do those? How are those administrative costs borne? Is that a reimbursement to the general fund from CDBG funds?
Correct.
Okay.
And
so how is it that there was an error, or why is it that administrative charge needs to be changed?
We saw after the fact that the amount approved by Mayor and Council was the original amount that had been in the mayor's proposed budget, the caps for public service and admin. And unfortunately, because of updated projections, we're expecting reduced program income for this year, which was the amount available for the cap, and that wasn't caught when it went to council and improvement.
I see. So it's triggered entirely by the amount of the CDBG program funding in the first place.
Yes, and it didn't get captured that the amount should have been decreased when you were approving it in the first place. So,
Very
and we
good.
were looking at this, and we'll come back in a couple of months as we have further projections for that to see if we have additional changes.
So in terms of the timing of the reimbursement of the administrative costs, how does that happen? When does the transfer happen between the CDBG funding and the general fund?
I believe they do it all year long, as they draw down CDBG to pay for salaries, and then it gets reimbursed. I'm not actually personally involved with the FMS, so as far as the reimbursement, I'm not sure on the schedule.
I guess where I'm coming from is, can we, does that need to be done within this fiscal year? Because if so, we have another $750,000 problem that we have to fix in the general fund.
It does need to be done this year because it has to do with our caps. However, since we've released the report, we've also learned that we should be getting a Section 108 payment in, and so we're anticipating some additional program income, so we hope that doesn't come to pass.
I see.
Didn't have that ready for this report at this point, but we can submit it to your office, and we've been working closely with the CLA on this information and sharing things as it becomes available.
So that would be a win-win, more program funding and less impact to the general fund. So that would be exciting if that comes to pass. So, okay, thank you very much. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dawson, did you want to move this item?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Calling the roll to approve the HSID report for item number 3. Councilmember Cedillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Krikorian.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris-Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. This item is approved. Item number 4 is a Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment report relative to authority to approve the list of proposed co-applicants for the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Round 6 and approval for various actions relative to the city's application process for the 2020 Round 6 funding opportunity of the Strategic Growth Council's AHSC program.
I see Claudia. Did you want to give us a very brief comment on what action we're taking?
Yes, good afternoon, council members. Claudia Monterrosa with HZLA. And this is the part 2 transmittal requesting the various authorities to move forward on the round 6 application process for AHSC. Attached to the report is the list of 8 recommended projects that we've selected through a very vigorous selection process that involves the departments of DOT, Bureau of Engineering, Planning, and other public works departments, as well as our Housing Development Bureau. And so that's really what's before you, and also the authority to work with the city attorney to work on the required joint application agreements so as a condition to apply as a co-applicant. Very briefly, I do have an update on the actual status of the timing for the application for this funding source. We are still expecting approximately $350 million in funding from the state for this. However, in the middle of November, I believe in mid-November, the Housing and Community Development Department as well as the Strategic Growth Council sent a notice to pause the funding on this funding source as well as others. So at this point, we are waiting for confirmation on the new timeline for the application process for round 6. So the original due date for the application was to be February 21st, and that is now pending. We do expect the Strategic Growth Council to discuss this item at next week's meeting, and we hope to have an update on the time frame. I believe there is also going to be an opportunity to discuss the pending guidelines, so those have not been adopted yet. And as per your approval, we submitted substantial comments to the draft round 6 guidelines. And so at this point, I think the earliest that we can expect a release of the next of the round 6 NOFA is sometime in January, early February. So that will probably put the application due date at least 2 months after the release of that funding NOFA. In the meantime, the team will continue to work on the application since this is one of the most complex applications that exist at the state level for this type of funding that requires sustainable transit infrastructure improvements along with the housing development.
Mr. Harris-Dawson?
I'll move the item if there's no further discussion.
I will second, but I do have a question on the change in the guidelines, the final guidelines that are still pending. Is the continuing work on the application such that those final guidelines will be able to be considered before the application is submitted so that the projects are as competitive as possible in light of whatever those guidelines end up being?
Absolutely. So right now we are operating under the latest draft of the guidelines. However, we do expect some changes, and so we will continue to work with the Strategic Growth Council and to continue to monitor this very closely to ensure that our projects are as competitive as possible and that any potential changes to the guidelines don't have a negative impact on our slate of applications.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I think we're ready for a roll call.
Calling the roll to approve the recommendations in the HSID report for item number 4. Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Councilmember Krikorian.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris-Dawson.
Yes.
3 ayes. This
Madam
item
Chair?
is approved.
That clear the file, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk?
There is nothing further in the queue, Mr. Chair.
Motion to adjourn.
I will
So be the order.
move, Mr. Chairman, with best holiday wishes to everybody on the Housing Committee and our respective staffs and all those that serve this committee.
let me thank Ann and her entire team for her leadership, and thank the entire team for shepherding us through really choppy waters. And we've been there for a while, and we're going to be there for a while. But it's great. Ann, thank you. It's great to see that we're all working as a team to move our city forward. So I thank all of you. Obviously, to my dear colleagues, have a great afternoon, and God bless. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have